Hello, and thank you so much, and thank you, James. I really appreciate that, and happy to be standing here with you and not on a snowy mountain, actually, right now. So what I want you to think about while I'm speaking and while during this whole session today is, how do you think change happens? What is your theory of change? Because essentially that's what I'm going to be talking about, is a way in which change happens, and that is 1% for the planet. So 1% for the planet, and let me just give you a little roadmap, actually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about the 1% for the planet model, but again, I want you to be bringing in your thinking about, like, how does change happen? How does this fit with that? And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we approach it and what the opportunity is that that represents for collective action. So 1% for the Planet was founded in 2002 by these two people, Yvonne Chouinard and Craig Matthews. And they basically were two businessmen fishing on the side of the Madison River in Wyoming, and in Montana, actually, excuse me. And they were realizing that what they did as their businesses was something that they felt needed to be spread more broadly, needed to be proliferated. So they said, hey, this land that we support through our businesses, that we give back to, that enables us to do what we want to do, we need to have that replicated all over the world. So they created 1% for the Planet as the movement-building model for what they were doing. And we have since grown quite a bit. So that was on the shores of the Madison River in a tiny little area in the United States, and we're now truly a global nonprofit. So we are in 60-plus industries, so not just the outdoor industry. We are truly all over the world. We are also driving significant impact. So just in the last year, we have certified quite a bit, and that has brought us to close to actually $500 million in certified giving. That's US dollars, and that's for our global giving. And we do this, our model is based on engaging business members, so businesses giving back their 1%. So every business that is a member of 1% for the Planet gives 1% of their annual sales to environmental nonprofits. And I'll talk more about how that all works. But it's a very intentional, credible model that drives change through collective action, which you're seeing here. And just to break it down a little bit, so that was our global numbers. So we have a strong presence in Europe. As you can see here, 20 countries, more than 2,000 members. And then we have a France chapter, and we have a booth here today. So if you're interested in learning more about 1% for the Planet in France, definitely invite you to go by, and our amazing French director is here. And so this is the one country outside of the US where we have a staff that's based, and we've really seen significant growth. When I started at 1% for the Planet 9 years ago, we had 1,100 members globally, and now France, as one country, has more than 1,200 members. So that's one example of the ways in which we're growing, of the ways in which people, businesses, are leaning into the 1% for the Planet model as a way to drive change. In the UK, which is another one of our countries where we've seen a lot of growth, where we don't have a dedicated chapter, but where we have members as part of our global model, we've also seen significant growth. So who is part of the 1% for the Planet model? Who is saying, yes, we want to do this? What's really exciting is that it's across all industries. So in that last, or in one of those earlier slides, I shared that it's more than 60 different industries, and no more than 10% of our network is in any one industry, so we're truly diverse. So it's not just a model that works for a certain type of company. It doesn't just work in the food and beverage industry, for example. It works across all different industries. And this is because it creates a way for brands to tell powerful stories about real impact. And those are customized stories to who they are. So Tazo Tea can tell their unique stories based on how they as a business are operating and thinking about change. What's a good example? Pukka Tea is another one. Those are two tea brands, right? But they both came to 1% for the Planet. And this is actually a really great story to share. So they both have very different stories. And Pukka was a member for a while. And they actually introduced us to Tazo Tea. And for me, that aligns with my theory of change, is that we have to let go of what we have thought of as competition and see the ways in which we can drive change by coming together, by seeing that there are opportunities for us to continue to be distinct, continue to be powerful businesses, and to drive change. So in the case of Pukka and Tazo, they both are making the commitment to 1%. So there's a unified collective action there, but they are giving to different nonprofits through our model. So they're telling different stories. So they remain differentiated in that way. So that's one example, and we see that all across the thousands of members in our network. But this is just a small sampling to give you an idea of the different types of members, the different ways in which they are showing up, and there are many different geographies represented here as well. So I've mentioned nonprofits, and I want to just explain a little bit about one of our theories of change at 1% for the Planet, in addition to this collective action, is that the act of giving to nonprofits plays a unique and powerful role in driving change. So it's not a silver bullet. My theory of change is also that there's not one thing. We need to do a lot of different things. But the role of nonprofits is really important, and it's important to understand that role. So we have government, we have businesses, and we have nonprofits at the simplest level. And what nonprofits are able to do is operate where there is not a market. They're able to operate totally driven toward a mission. They're often able to move a lot more quickly because they are not beholden to a set of shareholders. They are able to really orient towards the mission they're seeking to achieve, the impact they're seeking to achieve, and the action that they need to take. And so what 1% for the Planet does is, in addition to engaging our business members, we also maintain a network of vetted environmental partners. And these are all over the world. We have global environmental partners. And I've used the term nonprofit. In many countries, they're called charities. We lump them all under the term of environmental partners. And what they are able to do is really to drive this powerful change. And what's great about our model is that we look at businesses who operate, of course, where there is a market and generate resources within that market. And as you've seen on this stage and other stages here, are able to make a lot of changes within the marketplace. But one of the really powerful opportunities through 1% for the Planet is the resources generated in the marketplace. Business members can give to the non-market activities of the nonprofits and immediately expand their scope of impact. So ideally, businesses are taking action in their supply chain, in how they're sourcing their energy, and in all of the ways that businesses within the marketplace can drive powerful change that needs to happen. And they give to nonprofits or environmental partners, and boom, they've expanded that scope of change. They've expanded the area in which they can drive change. So what 1% for the Planet has done is we've created 4 different impact areas, and our many thousands of environmental partners are categorized into these categories. So it's conservation and restoration, rights to nature, just economies, and resilient communities. And these are really important, and they're quite new. One of the things that we've really been trying to do is expand the boundaries of environmental, the definition of environmental. And the reason for that is, as we've learned more, as we've all been working in this space more, and by we all, I mean not just our team, but the many people working in the environmental space, we've realized that many of the boundaries that we had put around what qualified as an environmental activity or not were really limiting. So often, we were excluding those activities or investments that really could drive change for environment, for planet, for people. So the purpose of 1% for the Planet is to inspire action and commitment so that our planet and people thrive. And so this is a way, these impact areas are a way that we really include community considerations. We include vulnerable communities. We include those areas where justice considerations need to be taken into account to truly drive environmental changes at scale for people and planet. So one of the things that we really think about as we're considering how we drive change is to do it in a meaningful and actionable way. And one of the really beautiful things about 1% for the Planet is it's very simple. And it creates a way for people, for businesses to take that first step, to do something that then can lead to further action. And so our model is really high impact, low lift. We create a simple, methodical way that businesses can step through the process, can stay focused on their core business while also tapping into our expertise to really drive change through environmental giving. So the first step is to make that commitment, to say, hey, yep, we are going to give 1%. And that may sound simple. It is simple. It may sound too simple to some of you, but it's super powerful to make that commitment, and then it's an annual commitment year over year. And then to develop the partnerships. I use that example of Tazo and Pukka, the two tea companies. And figuring out those partnerships is really where the magic happens. So each member of 1% for the Planet is giving directly to environmental partners that they, with support from our team, choose to give to. And so developing these really powerful partnerships, which at their core are really powerful relationships, is where it all happens. And then, of course, the act of giving. And that giving is typically financial, but also can be through volunteer time, through in-kind donations. So really, again, looking at all of the resources within the marketplace of the business, which includes employees and their time, which includes products that can sometimes be given. So the act of giving is a core part of our model. And then we certify every year. And this is super important in a day and age when I'm sure you have all heard of greenwashing, of people, of brands saying they're doing something and not following through, or saying they're doing more than they are doing, or saying that they're doing something and not providing clear evidence of that. That is all greenwashing. And as consumers are increasingly interested in environmental activities, the risk of greenwashing, unfortunately, goes up. And so the credibility of the 1% for the Planet model hinges on our annual certification. So every business that has the 1% for the Planet logo, our staff, has certified that they have given their 1% every single year. So it's a highly credible model, and it's really the opposite of greenwashing, because no one bearing that 1% for the Planet logo is not doing what they're saying they are doing. And then we tell the stories. So sometimes there can be a tendency to not communicate things that companies are doing that are really good. Maybe there's a sense of being humble about it. Maybe there's a concern of being called out for not being perfect. But we really believe in progress, not perfection. And so we really, really encourage our companies to tell those stories of giving, because the act of giving, those partnerships, creates such a powerful story and resonates so much with consumers, and start to create that powerful cycle where consumers say, hey, that is great. We love what that company is doing. It aligns with my values. I want to buy those products. And we do start to see that it's not just good for the planet and good for people, but good for business. So telling those stories is super powerful. So I'm going to just cruise through some of the key ways in which this really adds value. So credibility, I mentioned that. In terms of the anti-greenwashing, the opposite of greenwashing. So the other piece of the credibility is that consumers really want this. The data is very clear. We went through a bunch of different data points where we could have picked many. But very clearly, consumers want to see companies making strong commitments, and they want it backed up. And so we see our brands really, really leaning into this. So Avocado is one of our big brands, and they are doing really great work. And for them, having the credibility of 1% for the Planet enables them to give a really strong communication to those consumers, which, again, isn't just a marketing story. This is how we create a new economy in which consumers are able to choose products that align with their values, and then together we're able to create the future that we want to create. Accessibility. So a lot of people really want, again, this is another consumer data point, want to see companies at the forefront of driving change. But a lot of companies can feel like, well, how can I do that? And we have so many companies who started small, like Patagonia, for example. They started with 1%, and as you may know, in the past year, they're essentially now 100% for purpose. And it all began with their 1% commitment. We got an amazing story of the small nonprofit that received their first donation, which we think was the first 1% for the Planet donation. And that has led them on a journey over 40 years that has gone from 1% to 100%. Maine Beer Company is a great company, similar example. They gave $100, and now they have, over time, given more than $1 million. So the model of 1% for the planet is very accessible to companies of all sizes, and that enables us to drive collective change. Expertise. We are able to provide expertise around environmental giving, which is so, so important. And so we have found that our brands are able to come to us to say, hey, this is new to us. We haven't done this before. Help us to do this and to do this better. OXO is a large public brand, and they have worked closely with 1% for the Planet to develop their giving strategy. And then engagement. Purpose-driven companies matter. They outperform the marketplace. They're great places to work. Employees choose them. So all of that is part of the 1% for the Planet model. And this is a biotech company that joined us last year, and they've really, really leaned into having their employees engaged in meaningful ways. So it's a diverse model. It's a collective model. Are you thinking about your theory of change? It's a model that people can join with just a small initial step. It's a model that really enables us to get at the collective part of taking great ideas from the idea to the implementation. So I read an article this winter called it was something about the change in American progress, but basically that the Eureka theory is no longer accurate. The idea of an inventor sitting alone in a room, having a great idea, and that being how we change the world, it's not how it happens. We need those great innovations. We need those great inventors. But the way the world really changes is when groups of people come together and in collective and distributed ways drive change at scale. So 1% for the Planet is on track to drive $1 billion in giving in the next 3 to 4 years. And that is not through individual action. That is through collective action, which is when individuals and companies come together with their 1%. That billion will be made up of the 1% of our smallest company and of our biggest company. And that's how we drive change at scale. So as you are thinking about corporate transformation today, as you are thinking about your theory of change, I hope you'll continue to think about how small actions add up to large change. Thank you.